just wanted to give you a little platform here to talk to our clients about cloud backups and everything CrashPlan. Just to kind of jump into things and start things off here. I've been using CrashPlan for I think close to 9 years now. And so I've got a good relationship with CrashPlan, and we've used it in a multitude of environments, and it's been helpful in all kinds of scenarios. So I wanted to bring on what I would call a subject matter expert, and Everett, of course, you're that subject matter expert. So I'll let you dive in and tell our clients a little bit about what you do as a company.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and really am grateful for the opportunity to share the CrashPlan story with you and with Tech Heroes clients.
Yeah.
CrashPlan is actually a really interesting company. We are a 20-year-old or so startup.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean by that is, we've been in business and have been, really focused on endpoint backup now for over 20 years with our solution that a lot of people will remember and recognize as CrashPlan.
Yeah.
And last year, and CrashPlan was always part of the solution portfolio from a Minneapolis company called Code 42.
Mm-hmm.
And last year, Code 42 decided to divest the CrashPlan component of their solution. And so a group of leaders got with the investment community and were able to secure an investment so that we could start our own company. And so the name of the company became CrashPlan. So wanted to take the name recognition that people knew and understood and carry that into the company name. So we started CrashPlan as a company last July.
Yeah.
And been kind of at this independently now for almost a year. And things are great. We've retained a lot of our existing customers that wanted to make that transition with us as we moved out of the old company's purview. And of course, part of the reason why I'm here and why we're having this conversation is because they asked me to come on board to really help build kind of a new channel for CrashPlan. And my background and experience is really focused on MSPs and VARs and other technical consultants. And
absolutely.
So it was a great fit. So
So as we're talking about this, when I'm working with my clients, there's some questions that come up right off the bat, and two things that enter the conversation are: one, why should I store my data offsite? And two, if it is stored offsite, what kind of encryption is happening so that somebody that's offsite can't get to my data? So can you kind of dive into those two scenarios for us?
Absolutely. And clearly, I think having a conversation with a customer that recognizes that backup is important is key, because 60% of businesses out there don't even back up their data. So if you're at least having that conversation, that's certainly positive.
Yep.
And there are a lot of different methodologies and frameworks that exist. One of the ones that I think is pretty easy to remember, at least for an old guy like me, is the 3-2-1 methodology.
Yeah.
Basically what that says is, if you've got critical data in your environment, then that should be backed up at least 3 times somewhere.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
And to provide a degree of diversity, it should be backed up on at least 2 different types of media, right? So hard drive, tape, what have you. And then at least one of those copies should be off-site. And so one of the nice things about cloud backup is it actually covers, 2 of those, or one of those categories all the way down, I guess, if you consider it, because certainly it would be a copy. It would be a different media. And it would be off-site. And so that's, again, having those conversations, I think, at least in this day and age, with some of the statistics that I know you and I both are familiar
Yes.
with,
Yeah.
having somebody recognize that they need backup is great. Now,
Yeah.
to your other question about security and
Mhm.
encryption,
Mhm.
we really standardized on AES 256-bit encryption.
Yeah.
So we utilize, and actually the CrashPlan framework is
Mhm.
really built around security. And
Mhm.
so what we do is, based on the agent that we have that resides on the endpoint,
Mhm.
data is encrypted. The backup is actually encrypted using that AES encryption,
Mhm.
and it transits the internet to our cloud backup.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so not only do we encrypt the data, but we actually encrypt the pipe
Yep.
the data.
Yeah. Yep. The
resides
packets and
travels
everything.
across.
Yes. As it's moving across.
As it's moving across. And so,
Yeah.
and then once it is in place in the cloud backup, then it is continuously protected by that AES encryption,
Mhm.
which is really
Mhm.
interesting because our model ties all of that to a key
Mhm.
that exists for an individual user or license. And that's
Mhm.
pretty important too, because when you think about the security, and there are a lot of different solutions out there, some of which will claim that they're secure.
Yeah.
And you really have to dig into what they mean by that. But at least as far as CrashPlan is concerned, we take very seriously the fact that data needs to be secure in transit, so
Yeah.
that in case there is a man in the middle attack, or somebody has actually gotten in, that path, that they can't decrypt or
Sure.
access the clear data.
Yeah.
And then once the data is at rest, it's still encrypted as well.
Stays
And it's really
encrypted.
all tied back to a single
Mhm.
user access and key
Mhm.
that can be controlled by an individual or an
Yep.
IT organization or an MSP such
Yeah.
as Tech Hero.
Yeah, and that way each one of your end users, it's an individual key per license.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
And that's really important because we don't maintain those keys unless
Mhm.
the customer wants us to. And
Yeah.
so what that means is,
Yep.
if for some reason you were to lose your key,
Mhm.
or lose access to your key, we can't help you
Yeah.
recover your data because
Yeah.
you chose that
Exactly.
option.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I think companies like Tech Hero and MSPs can
Yeah.
do, is kind of help take a lot of that guesswork and
Yep.
a lot of that piece out of the hands of your clients,
Yeah.
to let them really focus on what they do best. So
And to kind of go back towards that 3-2-1 model you mentioned, that's one of the reasons I really like to work with CrashPlan is diversifying the backups. It can be super helpful because let's say you have your 3 different backups. There's a whole myriad of things that can happen just on the workstation or server alone, whether it's, getting stuck in an update loop or, somehow potentially maybe an end user inadvertently removed the agent that's on that machine, or just some internet issues that can happen. And so as I start to diversify the backups, it just provides me as an IT services provider more options and more screenshots, more captures where I can restore data from. Because the unfortunate thing is an attack or any hardware failure is going to happen, almost always happens at the worst possible time.